First and foremost, just thank you everyone from the Hampton Roads Group for inviting me in, inviting the world in to come and hang out here for tonight's event. I'm just ecstatic here to talk about Power Query. Any time that someone opens up their stage and says, "Can you come talk about Power Query?" Yes, I'll be there. We're with bells on here in this example, but tonight we're talking about the power of the platform. It's Power Query. So just kind of a brief introduction here. If you don't know me, my name is Alex Powers. I'm a senior program manager here with the Power BI Customer Advisory Team, or PBI CAT, if you kind of see some of us over on Twitter and the LinkedIn. I want to keep this short. I usually have a longer list here, but just professional background. I'm an Excel guy at heart. Learned Power BI, kind of Azure. What's after Azure? I don't know. Cloud enlightenment. Maybe I'll become one with the machine. And then more of a personal, I am a real person, not a computer. So I love cats, professional wrestling, and data. Those are my trinity of interest. Pineapple on pizza, absolutely thumbs up. I know we may not have kind of some of the emoji support tonight in the Q&A, but let me know kind of where you fall in that line in the chat for us. And then honestly, just starting a dashboard in a day, now I'm here. So why I love, talking about people who have kind of gone on this similar journey, starting from Excel, moving into Power BI, and then kind of the Azure. It's just, I believe that Power Query is just such a transformational technology, and that's why I'm so excited to share kind of this story with you tonight. 4 objectives, though. We want to make sure we kind of hit all 4. We leave at the end with a clear definition of, what we're going to walk away with today. So first is just defining the problem that we're trying to solve. Starting to introduce the platform, demonstrate the technology. So we'll be going blazing fast tonight. So please, please, please ask questions in the Q&A. We'll have those intentional pauses, for me and Brian to kind of just, let's decompress, answer what we can, or maybe just kind of nerd out where we can if there's silence, and then just paint the future. With everything that we see tonight, where is this potentially going, kind of next. So defining the problem. We need to go faster. So everything is producing data, just rapidly changing kind of business as well. So it's finding these non-traditional workers. So, it's not the deep IT 20-year experience. It's these business users who know the problems that they're trying to solve. And then how do we get, these tools and technologies into their hand through these kind of low code or no code high productivity applications. So once we've empowered them, what do we do then? We have the data. We need to integrate it into our existing business systems. So whether it be CRM, ERP, maybe it's just moving data around kind of into the lake, preparing it for kind of these BI solutions. It's getting this low code and then kind of pairing it with these native integrations. We have the data. We need to move fast. We want to just integrate this as quickly as possible. So with that, talking about the Power Platform, these low-code applications, it does span Office 365, Dynamics 365, and also Azure, so all 3 clouds. It's comprised of Power BI, a huge fan here. Power Apps I'm coming around to. Power Automate, love it. Virtual Agents is so much fun if you've not tried it, but it's really centered around our data. So whether that be native connectors, kind of also artificial intelligence that's kind of baked in, that point and click. Dataverse, I've just become a huge fan here lately. And then kind of your third-party, REST or OData feeds that you can connect, kind of develop your own connectors if needed. So the modern data-driven architecture. We talk about everything is creating data, whether that be structured, unstructured, streaming, kind of doing the data movement here with, Data Factory, moving into storage solutions, let's be Azure SQL, Blob, Dataverse, kind of the lakes, analysis, more of that stream, Azure Synapse Analytics, cognitive services, and then kind of in that last layer here, exploration and collaboration. So surfacing our insights, surfacing our data into these applications. So whether it be Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Virtual Agents, Dynamics, Customer Insights, we see our data, we want to take an action. It's kind of this full circle process. Well, then we need to go collect more data. We need to integrate this data into our applications so that way we can surface it here for our business users. It's just this full process here. Brian, maybe I'll pause here. Looking at this full architecture, just how does this make you feel? Are you seeing this kind of in your day-to-day, more of these non-traditional IT users now starting to have to kind of work with these multiple technologies?
It's definitely grown in the past couple of years. Absolutely.
So we're seeing it. We know it's real. We know it's coming. It's not this 20-year robot that's kind of out in the distance. It's here. It's now. How can we create these simplified processes? Power Query is that tool for me. We talk about simplifying things when we talk about these integrations. Power Query is a data connectivity and preparation tool, enabling our business users to seamlessly access data. So our business user focus, kind of these low to no code, easy to use, engaging experiences. Here in the bottom, just a list of our connectors, kind of moving now to kind of an animation here with our databases, online services, other. The list just keeps going on and on and on and on. Over 150 connectors now currently available within kind of the Power BI desktop application or kind of within the span of Power Query. So that's a lot. So one tool, one application that can connect out to potentially 150 different sources, kind of using a same easy to use, no code application interface. So let's tell the story, from Excel into Power BI, kind of into Azure here fully. And with that, we're going to kind of move into our demo now. So jumping over into Excel, here within our toolbar, at the very top, we have our data tab. And the left-hand side, we have the get data experience. So this is our get and transform of data. We go and select this here now. As a user, my IT department said, hey, here's the server address. Just go connect out to our Azure SQL database. All right, so I click on this here now. I have my server address. I'm going to just drop this in, and I'll press OK. Very cool. Give that a moment here to load. Sweet. Awesome. So I've connected out to the server. I've got 3 different database applications. I can expand out my AdventureWorks now. And then I also want to select multiple items here because I want to bring in multiple tables. So I'm going to start with my sales order header here at the very bottom. Then I have this select related tables option. So if I click this now, it's going to go out, leveraging my database, all the primary and foreign keys that my IT department has already established for me, making all those table connections for me now. Here are all the related tables for this item. I'm going to click on the transform data. And then we are now taken into the Power Query user interface. A nice pro tip, if you're out doing demonstrations of Power Query, Control-Shift plus, Control-Shift minus, that will make things bigger in kind of a zoomed in mode. Control-Shift minus will go and scale out. Awesome. So with this now, I didn't have to install SQL Server Management Studio. I didn't have to go out and get any heavy, developer-based applications to connect to my data. I have the address. I logged in with my credentials. I'm now into my data. So with this, kind of moving back to our sales order header, I also want to kind of filter my customer table here now for that company name. So here, using kind of the Office-like experience, I want to search for, let me go ahead and go back. I want to search for items that contain the keyword of bike or contains another word of bicycle. So I'm really looking for these bikes or bicycles. Kind of here, just a basic prompt, clicking a downward chevron, experiences that are, very familiar to me, as an Office user. Here in the very top, I see this formula language bar, text contains bike, text contains bicycle. I also see my applied steps here on the right-hand side. Business user, point and click, that's all I've done thus far. If I right-click this step, view native query at the very end, I can see here that Power Query has generated for me this SQL statement. So it's gone out, select from statement here, my customer table, where company name like, added those wildcard characters, so bike or bicycle. I didn't do this. This is natively generated for me. as a business user. I don't know SQL. I don't know this full SQL Server Management Studio experience. I just pointed and clicked it. I knew what data I wanted to return. I knew the problem that I wanted to solve. So I'm loving this interface, this kind of low to no code kind of point and click experience. So I just, I keep using the buttons. I'm loving this. So I'm going to move over now to our salesperson. I want to replace some of these values. So I'll just right click replace values. I want to replace this AdventureWorks. Awesome. So I just had the salesperson's alias. Kind of zoom in here. Right click once again, view native query. It's now written this replace statement here now for me within my SQL. I didn't have to do this. Here, right here. It's written a replace statement for me. So what else can I do? I want to leverage AI. I keep hearing everyone talking about artificial intelligence. I'm looking at my email address column. I'm going to go to the add columns here at the very top. Then here on the left-hand side, column from examples, leveraging our artificial intelligence to recognize patterns. So I'm going to say from the selection, I want to go and extract out the domain is going to be my column header, and then go ahead and extract out adventureworks.com. Cool. Automatically flash filled. It wrote that formula for me at the very top, text.after delimiter. I didn't have to know the language. Once again, I love that I'm just pointing, I'm clicking, I'm doing all this awesome work. Press OK. A little bit of chugging there. Not really quite sure what that was about. DBAs start yelling at me and saying, "What are you doing? You're downloading this entire multi-million row table. You've broken query folding. What is this query folding? View native query is now grayed out." So before, where I was leveraging the power of the SQL Server engine, I've now had to download this data locally to do these additional transformations. I brought it into the mashup engine now. My DBAs don't like that I'm downloading this massive million row table. They're asking me to find a new solution. So I'm starting to learn, about this formula language. So here in the left-hand side, I'm going to do new query, other sources, then blank query, and then we'll kind of zoom in here. So at the very top, what I want to type in is equals hash shared. Here now, I have the complete Power Query function library documentation. I can go into just kind of table mode. So in this way, I can now filter it. Let's do name, text filters, kind of begins with. And I don't look for some of these table operations or kind of a text because I'm working with that text field. So text.format, after delimiter, before delimiter, range, start, end. I know that string is kind of at the very end here. I have my documentation. So get the last characters of the text. Awesome. So if I go back to my problem here, customers, text.after delimiter, it's breaking my folding. I'm going to update this formula now to end. I'm going to get rid of this kind of special character kind of search. And I'm looking for the 19th position. Pressed enter. It may have been a little seamless. You may have not noticed it. View native query, and I'm back in the fold. Right, email address 19 as domain. So something that was kind of breaking that my DBAs were yelling at me about. I started learning the language, using that hash shared. I'm starting to solve these problems. I'm leveraging the database engine again. I'm just moving faster and faster and faster here. Now, and of course, I may want to look at, just query dependencies to understand, what is the full lineage here of my data. So at the very top, I'll do this query dependency. So I can see my database. I can see all the tables that have kind of been brought in. I'll zoom in here and I'll kind of move around. So I can see I brought in some tables. I've got this other query that was kind of my helper there in terms of the functions. But I've got a little bit of a visual diagram here now. They've told me, though, that I'm doing way too much with Excel. We're starting to get a lot of comments about your spreadsheets. People are loving these reports. How can we get more power into your hands? we kind of move on into Power BI Desktop. So within Power BI Desktop, at the very top, we have our data section. We also have our queries, transform data. That will take us into the Power Query Editor window here. So here on the left-hand side, let me go ahead and pop over into Excel. Simply, I can copy these queries. My favorite trick, just copy, Control-C, and I'm going to move this now into Power BI Desktop. Control-V, paste. Exact same queries brought over from an Excel-based solution now into a Power BI Desktop application, so I can start, leveraging the power of the cloud, doing things at scale, leveraging the same interface, same points and clicks that we were used to before. To kind of jump over to our customer here, we have our applied steps on the right-hand side. I can view that native query window once again, see that generated SQL. I can't edit this. It's a read-only kind of a view here, but just be aware, if you break the folding steps, it takes that heavy processing at the source system, moves into the mashup engine. So if you're experiencing some, some slow durations there in terms of the query times, it could be that. It could be that. But this language, I'm going to jump into the advanced editor here for a moment. Let me go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. It's the same language that I copied from Excel now into Power BI. Once again, I don't know SQL. I know the problem I'm trying to solve. I can point and I can click. I can kind of read through the documentation. Maybe kind of make some edits there in terms of that formula bar. But 150 different connectors, all using this same language. So this could be SQL that it's writing today. It could be KQL if I was kind of connecting that to kind of a Azure Data Explorer. Whatever that source system is, if it supports kind of that relational language for kind of querying, it can send these statements back to that source system, which is pretty awesome. But I'm loving this. I'm building things of scale. The IT department, they're saying, hey, these data refreshes are taking a bit long. We really want you to kind of concentrate on, maybe slowing these queries or kind of speeding these up a little bit. So I'm watching Guy in a Cube every weekend, and I keep hearing these terms like partition. I keep hearing this partition word. I'm going to go to my blank query. I'm going to do my equals hash shared. I'll look for, is there anything that kind of talks to partitions? So text filters, contains. I'll look for this word partition that I keep hearing about from the DBA folks. Partition, awesome. So I've got this table.partition function, some long documentation here. I'm not going to read everything here for you, but I'm hearing the term. I'm just going to use it. So within my sales order detail here now, I'm going to do a new FX, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. So table.partition. Table is table. Got that first argument. My column, which I'm going to use my order dates. My groups, I want to create 12 of these. And then my hash function, I want to do a date.month. So I want to partition my table by month. Awesome. Right-hand side, applied steps, navigation, right-click, view native query. Awesome, so simple select from. I'll just kind of zoom in here now. But if I go to custom one, right-click, view native query is broken. What is going on? All right. I got to figure out how I can get this kind of back in the fold. It would be great if I could just combine these tables. So maybe I'll try this. At the very top, I'll do a table.combine. So tables as a list. Well, I've got a list of tables, yes. So right-click, table.combine. And let's go and check. Did I miss the dates? Oh, I think I'm in the wrong one. Give it 1 second here. I copy this, move over here. I'm going to add this here real quick. It's always that header. There's the order date. That one's caught me twice now. Tables, yes, awesome. So I've got these now, and we're gonna do a table.combine. One, cool, it's waiting, it's processing, 32 rows, very cool. Folding before with native query, custom 2 at the custom 1 not folding, custom 2 I'm back in the fold, and then let me go ahead and expand this out. 8-part M modulo 12 equals 0 is not null. Modulo 2 equals 1, or 12 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've broken out my order date by month here. It's kind of unioning them all together here as well within my SQL statement. Let me pause here. I've got all of these nested unions, all of the same query. Brian, what are your thoughts here? I mean, this one line of code, table.partition, was able to write all this dynamic SQL for us. It's got to be blazing fast, right? What are you thinking there?
It doesn't look like a fast query.
Any concerns from our chat? Do we have any DBA friends here who are like, oh my gosh, like this is not going to be good? Let us know in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here into our, let me close out of this one. Awesome. Back into Power BI desktop. I've got my table.partitions, you know, I need to look at some diagnostics here. People are telling me it may or may not be kind of fast. So here in the tools within Power Query Editor and Power BI, we can do diagnose. So we can do start diagnostics. Then from this example, I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, just kind of get a sense what's going on. So I'll do a refresh preview. It's running. Read our rows, awesome. And then I'm going to go ahead and do stop diagnostics. So I've got my partitions here that we were just talking about. I've got my detailed, my aggregate as well. Go and kind of zoom out here. Got this execute SQL that was kind of generated here for us now. Kind of the table catalog. Can we find a good one? There we go. So let's look for this. Execute query, we'll do a text filters equals query filter. So I've got this duration, exclusivity, resource, and then what else can we get here? Select top 4096. Text filters begins with top 4096. Cool. It's working. It looks like it's working. I can see the kind of the SQL generated here. I can see the exclusive duration, start time, end time, percentages, all of this information here kind of within this diagnostic tracing. So as a business user, I started out within Excel, just pointing and clicking, with reckless abandon. I've now moved into Power BI. I'm starting to implement some of these little things like partitions. I can see that it is folding back to the source system, and I can confirm that. And I always recommend what you'll want to do is, let's go ahead and do this here now. We'll do one more refresh within our data set here. So let's do a refresh preview of our order header. See these fire off within Azure Data Studio Profiler. Cool. So SQL batch completed. Let's go and do a filter. And class equals SQL batch completed. Excellent. So I can see the mashup engine event. I can see the details in terms of the query that was generated. So maybe in some of those instances where Power Query was telling me something wasn't folding, always trust the logs. Come onto your source system, check the logs, and make sure it's working appropriately. Like in this example, we can see here all 12 queries were generated all 12 queries just kind of being sent to that source system. But it'd be great if I had some more kind of helpers here. I don't really understand why the DBAs are upset kind of with the queries that are being generated. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to move out into kind of Power BI, the service now. So in this example, I'm going to go to new, I'm going to go to a data flow. So prep and clean and transform your data. Now I'm going to define new tables here in this example. Power Query. So this is Power Query Online now that we've moved into. I'm just going to kind of create a blank query here just because I like being a speed demon. I'm now taken into the Power Query interface. I'm going to go ahead and turn a few things off. Same exact code, copy, paste. It doesn't let you paste with the right click. Control V, press Control V now. Credentials required, yes. Let me go ahead and get that inserted. Cool. Awesome. Sales order header, left-hand side. Let me go ahead and close this ribbon. Right-hand side, I actually have some new icons. I'm gonna call these out here. So green, this step will be evaluated at that data source. So in Power Query Online, we have these step folding indicators. This one, it's telling me, yes, this step is valid. It will be supported back to that source system. Custom 1, it wasn't really quite sure, just saying inconclusive. And then custom number 2, it's telling me, hey, the step won't be evaluated at the source system. Well, not quite. We just verified with Azure Data Studio there. It is being supported at the source system. So once again, I love these visual indicators. I love them, the right click kind of within kind of Excel or Power BI desktop. Not always the truth. Check the source system. That could be the one thing you walk away with today. But with this, let me go ahead and clean a few things up and delete this. And they're telling me, Alex, this query, it's all over the board. We've got to convince you to rewrite this, your Power Query steps. I know they're innocent. It's just a simple formula. I'm not really quite convinced, though. They say, hey, look at the query plans. All right, query plans. So here on the right-hand side, query settings, view query plan. So if you're traditional DBA, you may use kind of SQL Server Management Studio or something to that effect. View query plan here. Awesome. So let me go ahead and expand this out. Brian, what do you think about that query plan? All of our partitions by month.
No redundancy at all.
All right, you've convinced me that this is probably not healthy. I can see the details out here. I can see kind of expanding out here the native query that's generated by each. They call it the support kind of the source system here with the server and database. All right, I see the lights. This may not be the best option. Brian, I'll kind of pause here. Maybe a question for you and also a question for our chat. We'll kind of give that delay. Are you currently using the query plan kind of within your discussions or within Power Query Online? And you're kind of building out data flows or maybe kind of using this transformation layer?
Not really. I've always jumped to SSMS when looking at the performance.
And I'm curious on this export button. I think the last time I tried it wasn't working. 3, 2, 1. Still, I don't know what it does. Maybe coming soon. But I absolutely love this. For our low to no code friends who want to kind of get into this professional world, looking at the query plans, looking at the diagnostics here in terms of some of these indicators, just point and click experiences. So with this, doing some merging, doing some joins, so I'm going to go ahead and do this here now. Jumping over to our kind of our customer table. And then I want to remove everything, but customer ID. Let's do that. Customer ID and address type. So address type. Nope. Maybe it's in customer. All right, we'll join them here. Postal code, customer address, address ID. Here. Yep, there it is, address type. Awesome. So in this one, customer address, kind of expanding these out, merging them. In this example, kind of bringing us that address type. I can see here if I right-click that view data source query, that same native query that we were seeing in the desktop is available here, kind of within the Power Query online experience. So I'll go ahead and press OK here. Now I'm going to bring in, I'm going to duplicate this. Get rid of a few items here if we don't mind. Running and gunning. Do customer address. Awesome. So we're going to do customer ID, address type. I'm going to go and remove these other columns. Awesome. And then customer, let's do this, address type. I want to jump back over to customer. Home, I'm going to do merge queries. So I've got my customer ID here now. I've got my address type here at the very bottom. I'm going to combine these based on customer ID. It's telling me how many matches I have. And then I can also choose kind of the join kind. So if I'm not, familiar with all the different types, these great representations here, what I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm going to do enter. I'm going to go ahead and yeah, we'll do enter here. Press OK. Merge queries is broken. The step will evaluate it outside the data source. So I can't join tables together. I can't merge them. Address type. Address type. Back in the fold. Over here. Just because the icon maybe shows that discouraging sign, don't think that that's the end of the world. In this example, we kind of use the expanded address type, view data source query. I can see here, it's kind of union this for us now, interjoined. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of table.nested join. So here at the very top, what I enjoy doing is table.join, kind of using the same here. So I've got customer ID to customer ID, my join kind. So if I press enter, let's go back here. Address type to number. Let's get rid of that here. Table.join, a nice clean step at the very bottom. But also maybe another benefit is if I do a comma here, just unfortunately the IntelliSense not rendering, but we can do one moment here. And I know that I messed it up on the spelling. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, we're gonna do blank query. We're gonna get our join algorithm. It's just be equals hash shared. Same reference. Convert this to our table. Do our table.join. Table.join. Function. Join algorithm here, kind of 1 through 6. Can I not see it all? Come on. All right, we'll jump back up then. So the first algorithm we're going to use, we're just going to use kind of 0. Awesome. So in this example, here it is. All right, join algorithm dot left index. Oof, much better. It's better having a kind of actual text as opposed to number. In this example, I'm able to specify at the database layer what algorithm it should use whenever it's doing kind of these combinations. I'll pause here though. Brian, are you going in very often using table.join or changing the algorithm type to maybe eke out kind of, a few extra seconds in terms of speed or performance kind of within some of your queries?
I haven't. That's a great tip. We do have a related question. In Power Query, how can you relate the tables with the keys if the query isn't already set up to do so?
So if the query isn't already set up to do so, this would be kind of at the source system then? Is that kind of the question, or is this more within the context of, maybe within Power BI?
I think it would be within the context of Power Query.
All right, so here at the very top within transform, and we'll kind of see here a few items perhaps. We see here in customer ID, but we have this option here, transform mark as key. Mark the currently selected column as a key in the table. So we can do that between our different tables. And then also we can kind of jump into schema view, or we would be able to see those. So in this example, can I mark as key on this one easily? I'll just do it here from the transform. So marking that one as a key, we now have the key icon. In terms of the metadata, it's now going to be written kind of whenever it lands in kind of the underlying storage. So it'll be Azure Data Lake Gen 2 here for Power BI. It'll have this metadata information to say, hey, this key is related to this table, and, in this other table. So you can define those relationships kind of between that primary key. So those type of things do exist. In this example, it shows that it's breaking query folding. I'd be very curious if that's accurate or not, just given that this is more of a metadata step. It shows there's a query plan, but unfortunately we can't view the native query. But there are these potential for defining keys within your Power Query. It's not an option that's available within kind of the local Power Query desktop application within Power BI or Excel, but it is just the formula. So you can do table.add key to those tables if you need to. So that's why the language is great. It's complete kind of or near complete parity across the different applications. Add table.add key to your application and kind of see how it performs. But if it breaks your query folding, don't use it. That'd be my kind of guidance there.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome. So we saw the query plan. We now talked a little bit about schemas. We talked about kind of the primary and foreign key, marking the keys. I'll kind of close schema view here now. I want to view the diagram view. How is this data moving? I can expand out queries here. I can see how the different items are connected. And like in this example, that address type, how it's expanding out to kind of my sales LT customer. Also leveraging the enhanced compute engine here with the lightning bolt. So just the transformation I did, I need a little bit more heavy lifting. So it's going to be kind of loaded into just an Azure SQL database kind of behind the scenes to help us with that transformation. But I can see in my diagram views, I have the query plans. I have kind of the diagnostic potentials as well. Everything up here. I absolutely love this experience. Hopefully we'll see it kind of coming to that desktop application soon. But that same M language that we started with over in Excel, now kind of brought into Power BI desktop and now into kind of this Power Query online experience. Seeing the flow of our data though, I can see the visual diagram kind of here in the bottom talking about flow. So Power Automate. In this example, I can go out here. I'll look for Power Query, transform data using Power Query. In this example, I can connect out to Azure SQL database instances. So create query. Click on this here now. The demo gods are smiling in my favor. Awesome. So I can see the Power Query online experience. I have the navigator on the left, STL weather, kind of bring it over here now, transform data. Everything that I was doing in Power BI and kind of the data flows now available here within that Power Query online experience within Power Automate. I have diagram views. I have my query settings. I can view the query plans, the data source queries, the native queries, add those keys, all these different things. Kind of pause here. How many people are using Power Query within Power Automate today? Brian, question for you as well.
I haven't used it within Power Automate, but I'm always looking to expand the reasons why I use Power Automate.
Yeah.
We do have a somewhat tangentially related question.
Yeah, of course.
So we're using Power Query in Excel, Power BI, and Power BI Online. Can it also be used with Azure Data Factory?
That's a great question, but where I live and work every day is Microsoft Teams. So we'll get to Azure Data Factory, but I just want to continue telling this story here now. So here within Teams, I've got my channels. I've got the VBA boys, the M Squad. We all hang out and love chatting all day long. Power Apps. So on the left-hand rail here, you have Power Apps. Connect to your data. Left-hand side, Power Apps, and at the very top is Build. Fortunately, the demo is not live for me. So let me pop over to kind of some of the documentation. This is rolling out soon. Creating data flows within Teams. So within that Power Apps rail, you can now create the data flows. It brings up the Power Query Online experience. We can connect that to Excel workbooks, SharePoint lists, PDFs, kind of these different sources. And then this data will be loaded into kind of that Dataverse instance, that team sits on top of. Exact same diagram view, query steps, indicators, everything that we've seen thus far in the Power Query Online experience available within Teams. Brian, are you using Power Query within Teams today?
I've used Power BI within Teams quite a bit in general, just for sharing content. And one of the things I've noticed is it seems like there's going to be much greater integration, which is exciting, especially with the October release saying that Power BI is going to be default installed in Teams moving forward. And usually it's pretty buried under the apps.
But have you used Power Query within Teams yet?
Power Query? No.
This is Power Query within Teams. So when you're in Teams, you can go to your Power Apps. You can go to this build button at the top, then you can start creating data flows using Power Query within Teams.
So you never have to leave Teams and you can still do all your work.
Incredible. So how do I know this stuff? How am I keeping up to date? PowerQuery.microsoft.com. They have the blog. They have all of the places, all these updates. Just one more RSS feed to add to kind of your list here, but one I highly recommend. So in this example, they have announcing Power Query data flows for Dataverse and Teams. Once again, kind of that region limit, kind of limited availability while they do the rollout. But I am an Excel user once again, or I'm a SharePoint user. I want to load data into a SQL-based source system here, something that I can start building maybe paginated reports, kind of some more complex items on, without needing those IT skills. So in this example, I pipe my Excel workbooks into Teams. It lands in this Dataverse instance. And then from there, I can go into, where's Report Builder? Awesome. Power BI Report Builder. At the very top, I want to create some paginated reports, go to Data. I've got my Dataverse button right there. So how many people are using Power Query within Microsoft Teams to load your data into a Dataverse instance so you can start creating these paginated report workloads, using the TDS endpoint to start writing SQL against this Azure SQL database that's built into Teams? I'll pause there. Brian, are you using that today, Dataverse, in that way?
Not at all. Question, before we had to enter the data into the Dataverse for Teams table, correct?
Yep. So right here at the very bottom, we can then start creating our table, loading that data in. We can kind of build those mappings out, and then kind of define what we'd like to do with those. But as a business user, non-technical, I know Teams, I live in Teams, I know my data, I know the problems I'm trying to solve, point and click, loading it in now to kind of this Dataverse or, kind of the Azure SQL-based system behind the scenes. Pretty wild. All right, so we've talked about Dataverse. Love it, love it, love it. I'm just coming around to it here a lot more recently. I've got data flows over in Dataverse. I've got my data. I go to start from blank. Let's do Power Query. is Power. Analytical entities only. So this is kind of a good setting here. Load data to a data lake for analytical purposes to unlock AI-based insights. So there's two different type of data flows within kind of the Power Apps application. There's analytical and there's standard. Analytical will land in a data lake, kind of exactly how it is over on the Power BI side. If you choose a standard, it will load into that Dataverse instance. So that's two different methods. Analytical is data lake. Standard will be the Dataverse. So now we kind of do those, connectivity kind of with paginated reports, whatever else it may be. On this example, I'll just kind of go with the standard. So I'll do create. I've got this list. This is awesome. I see this button down here, data flows, Power Platform. I'm already using data flows kind of within my Power BI environments. It's really just, I want to connect it now to this new system. Here on the left-hand side, workspaces, I can see that data flow kind of over here in my Power Query demo. I've got my data flows. I've got my tables here, if any relationships are created in terms of primary and foreign keys that everyone was talking about. Obviously we can kind of leverage those here. I've selected my information. I see the preview. I see Power Query here at the very top, transform data. Awesome. Brought right back into the application that I know, the points and clicks that are familiar. I've got the experience here of my diagram view. Get out of here. And my query plans, if I need to look at them here as well. Folding indicators. I'll pause here. How many people are using your Power BI data flows to connect them and feed them into a Power App system here? Brian, question for you too.
One person said every day, so
I love that.
Person. I have not.
So we don't have to move our data back and forth. We can point to the existing work that we've already created and done, kind of leveraging the Power Platform data flows now. So just same, we connect from the Power Apps data flows over into our Power BI applications that we have to do kind of more of that analytics. All these available. If I was to go back into kind of over here, let's do sales LT customer. I'll just copy and paste this. I'll kind of move over. Oh, getting close. Paste, we know right click doesn't work. I can Control V, same code, it's brought over, asking me to do my credentials. Yes, that's fine. Same language, same application. I can bring it from one system to the next. I create these connections. I've got all these rich tools available within Power Query Online to help me here. It's Power Query Online in Power Apps with data flows within the Dataverse. What I kind of talk about here on the left-hand side, I'm getting this information ready every day. I'm starting to create really some awesome applications here in terms of CRM or ERP systems. I want to kind of link it out to Azure Synapse link, kind of do some richer analytics here. So in that left rail, Azure Synapse link, new link to data lake, just point and click, kind of connect your resources here to a Synapse Analytics workspace. And then from here, kind of supporting a hybrid transactional and analytical processing capability. So as new data is written, it's automatically synchronized here to Cosmos and then kind of pushed out kind of over to Azure Synapse. So that way I can really take advantage of insights at scale here, leveraging this Spark engine. Reduce complexity with no ETL jobs, near real-time insights, no impact on that operational workload. So as people are in your Power App, writing new insights, updating records, etc., behind the scenes, it's doing all this synchronization automatically to prepare your insights for your data. I'll pause here. Whew. How many people are using Azure Synapse link to take advantage of sourcing your data ingestion processes to prepare really for these enterprise grade kind of solutions here, leveraging Synapse? Pause there.
If the answer is no to these questions, these are great things to check out.
So familiar BI tools like Power BI Premium. Whew. All right, so people are asking the question, we started in Excel, we saw Power BI, we're starting to see Power Automate, Power Apps, kind of Dataverse here now, Azure Synapse Link, Spark-based system. So there's got to be something here for those professional developers. So Azure Data Factory here within that system. So if you're more on the pro side of development here, there is Power Query supported within Azure Data Factory. So once you've kind of set up your data sets, kind of your sources and sinks, what we can do is we can then go to a new Power Query. And also, if you're a citizen developer, I want you to see this just because, hey, this is the art of the possible. This is 1 hour of time spent together. We started one application. We're going to kind of end in another here. So I'm going to connect out to my database. If you're in this example, my table weather. The same Power Query experience that we're used to, our diagram views, our query step indicators here on the right-hand side. I see kind of that view data source, the view query plan, everything that I'm learning, spanning all these different applications. So in this example, maybe I want to look for humidity. Let's do just a greater than, we'll say anything that's greater than 60.
Philosophical question about Azure Data Factory. As analysts, is that something that people should be using, or is that more of the job of someone like a data engineer?
So, same language. For me, if you can imagine the problem that you're trying to solve, all Azure Data Factory does is bring kind of that enterprise grade scale. So if you have code that you're ready to maybe productionalize, do something pretty wild with trillions of rows of data, this could be a fantastic application for you to kind of grow up into. With it as it currently exists, once again, I have the same code. We talked a little bit about the mashup engine at the very beginning. So that is just kind of a lightweight container. With Azure Data Factory, it's sitting on top of the Spark engine. So it's not using the mashup engine. In this example, you can go out to kind of learn more, but it's doing massive amounts of scale data transformations on kind of this Spark cluster. So if you're looking at, well, Alex, you've maybe convinced me here, with investing time into Power Query. I've seen the full grow up story. I could be kind of an Excel analyst today. Tomorrow I could be kind of the enterprise data integration specialist. For me, it's right here. Let's do, gosh, I need a new query. Come on, give me a new query. Can I get one? Yeah, I'm just gonna do advanced editor here. Give me 1 second. We'll just jump into it. Favorite equals hash shared. Oh gosh, let's do hash shared. To table. For me, it's all right. Oh gosh, of course it doesn't scale very well. It's a functional language. So if you can understand formulas like you can in Excel, if you can kind of come out here, learn these little bits, maybe it's like a table operations. Let's do table dot period. Filter rows. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why I did that. If you can come out here, learn the functions, learn what they do, learn the problems that you're trying to solve, it really shouldn't matter what solution you're using. That is my kind of advice. This is more of just, hey, I want kind of in this example, here's the code for Azure Data Factory. Here's your script for that Power Query, kind of your let section. All this is if you're looking for more of that professional developer, kind of like Git integration, things of that nature. But for me, it's a formula language that you can learn in Excel. And when you're ready to do those enterprise grade problems that you're trying to solve, Azure Data Factory could be that solution. But I don't think that you should have to decide, project by project. It's where you're at and what skills you're looking to kind of achieve at that time. I'll pause there though, Brian. Azure Data Factory is cool. I highly recommend people come out here and check it out. Any questions though in regards to Azure Data Factory?
That's a great point. And as you said, if you're already familiar with Power Query and you're looking to learn what you can do in Azure Data Factory, you can start in a place you're familiar with and then explore the tool further.
Agreed. All right, this has been a roller coaster for me, so let's just jump back to the slide here. Power Query is designed for everyone. From a business analyst, we start out in office today. If you're starting to get more of kind of that low to no code solution developer who kind of within the Power Platform, it's this data ingestion. It's a experience that you're familiar with. It's the skill set that you're building. After every point and click, you're just building that muscle. It's moving that from one application to the next to the next. Eventually, over time, you're going to grow up into kind of this integration specialist. You're wanting to just take on mountains and mountains and trillions of rows of data. Azure's there for you. When you're ready for it in your journey. But once again, wherever you're at, Power Query is designed for everyone. I love talking about this slide. I've stopped updating it. I'm going to let you know if you want your solution to be a hit, just make sure it works with Excel. A reason for this is Power Query started as Project Oslo back in 2007, kind of moved into SQL Azure Labs in kind of 2011, was an Excel add-in in 2013. Still really not seeing that broad adoption that you would like to see in a kind of a product. At that point, obviously it could die and we're like, oh gosh, what would we do without Power Query? But that arrow for me is what I would call our community. Our community found the tool, absolutely love the possibilities and potential that it could bring. So from there, it's just everyone, it's a rocket ship. Everyone wants to use it, talk about it. It was built into Excel natively, starting within the 2013 application. So it's in everyone's Excel today. Into Power BI, it's available in Azure Analysis Services, Power Apps, Power Automate, data flows kind of within the Power BI and Power Apps there too. SQL Server Integration Studios has a component if you're doing on-prem transformations, Azure Data Factory, Excel on a Mac, Customer Insights. It's everywhere. It's in Teams. It's all over the place now. PowerQuery.microsoft.com, where you can go to just kind of follow along. The future, I leave this slide here just because I love marking things off or done. What I think is that you'll have MDBAs. So highly specialized individuals that can optimize M code, find those performance tuning elements or even building kind of custom connectors. IntelliSense is done. It's a little broken, but hey, they're working on it. I feel very comfortable with their response. Seamless integration across all offerings. As we saw today, I copied code from Excel, moved it all the way into Azure Data Factory. Some of the interface is a little bit different just from the local development versus the cloud. Just be aware they are working towards bringing that as a unified experience. So that rich Power Query Online, kind of bring that to your local desktop. SQL Server and Azure Data Factory done, we're in progress. Once again, we saw that here live today with Data Factory. Microsoft Access as an Office guy, hey, why not? That'd be kind of fun. Excel for Mac, so for our Macintosh users, yes, they do have Power Query. I'm just not a big Mac fan, but they've got it. I love Power Query, so I love it. Excel Online, why not coming soon? We saw that Power Query Online experience. We have to believe that we'll see that in Excel one day, where you can start doing Power Query and Excel Online. Version control would be awesome. We saw a little snippet of that kind of within Data Factory. And then ultimately, we're bouncing around all the place. Why can't we just have a standalone product, with Power Query where we just deploy solutions anywhere? I would absolutely love that if that was to be the case one day. So then, us as MDBAs are kind of M specialists. We can deploy our code at any solution application just in that click of a button. Whew. But with that, questions for me, suggestions, or if you just downright think that I'm crazy, just talking about Power Query with kind of this passion, just the possibility here with the power of the platform. I'll pause here. Brian, is there anything that kind of drummed up that we should kind of revisit?
No outstanding questions. If anyone has any, now is the time. Also, during this time, I will publish a link to our form to get registered to win an Amazon gift card. So thank you guys for attending. Naturally, I'll be using a Power BI report to generate the winner. It randomly selects from the list of people who answer the form, and I will email the winner. So be on the lookout for that. No questions rolling in just yet. I really like, one, not just covering the information for Power Query, but showing how incredibly versatile it is and jumping from where you would expect. You know, a lot of people know it from Excel and Power BI Desktop, but just the differences between Power BI Online and even the other places where you can use and engage and plug in your Power Query code.
I agree. And for me, it kind of goes back to this slide, 150 connectors. You know, I have a very finite availability with my time, so I have to kind of spend it wisely. I don't want to have to go out and learn every application's API, you know, documentation or structure, or every call to a service. The fact that we have, you know, 150 plus integrations here now, point and click, I'm connected to my data. I don't have to go out and learn KQL or all these different kind of languages if I don't, you know, have the time to dedicate to that. I know the problem I'm trying to solve, point, click, transform, ingest, kind of get it ready. To me, that's just such an incredible and powerful story, and why I always convince people, hey, if you decide to go along with this technology, you know, this is potentially, you know, what you could achieve if you really get kind of that full scale, kind of with that Azure Data Factory experience.
Burning question,
Yeah.
Why the pineapple on pizza?
Sweet heat. If you can add some pineapple and jalapeno, oh, it's just the best in the world. And it really, for me, I always love including it kind of within the slide at the very beginning. Just getting, you know, as a pro wrestling fan, if you get people to cheer for you or you get people to boo for you, you know, they'll be a little bit more emotionally invested. So for anyone that's out there booing me and throwing things at your monitor for, you know, not enjoying pineapple pizza, it's intentional. You know, I want you to root against me a little bit and be like, you know, his demo isn't going quite well. He recovered. Hopefully at the end, though, we're all kind of laughing and having fun. I absolutely enjoy just having that kind of on the slide. It's just a fun little break there.
I was not expecting such a great presentation tip from that question.
Well, we'll kind of get here to the bottom. I'll hang out until there's no one in attendance, or just no additional questions kind of coming through. Hopefully, though, for those who you know, are interested, always feel free to connect with me kind of on LinkedIn, Twitter, you know, website, kind of a good archive there for a lot of my Excel contributions. Always happy to share, you know, kind of what I'm excited about here, especially in the Power Query space. For me, it's just that new rich Power Query Online. The fact that is just everywhere now. I may not be comfortable, you know, with being a Power Apps expert, or being, you know, a Dataverse expert or this expert or that expert. But if I know, you know, Power Query and this data ingestion, my goodness, like, what is the stat, Brian? Like 80% of an analyst's time is in preparing the data and kind of shaping it, getting it ready for that source system.
Absolutely. And the first thing that I kind of experienced with Power Query was all the things that I learned having to do in R or Python, I could do with a couple clicks of a button. So it was very eye-opening.
Yeah. So if 80% of a process is getting the data shaped, prepared, and you have that talent and that skill set, and the next thing is, hey, I'm now going to ingest this into the system to let the next person in line, you know, start taking action. Maybe it's a Power App, maybe it's kind of Dynamics, or, you know, maybe in kind of analytics. Just the fact that you can take that time to market value of having a solution, you know, and maybe just a few clicks, that is wild to think about. You know, that's what I'm always excited for, kind of thinking about the future. All right, let's stop presenting then. I'll kind of check the chat. I love the question though from the pineapple.
Absolutely. And just reiterating, thank you so much for joining us.
That was an absolute blast. Thank you, Brian.